a training environment where you can train anywhere in the world and train on the terrain that you are going to fight on. And we envision this environment, this capability, because we envision a global terrain capability which will allow us to do this. We also envision the future Army training environment having the capability for you to train at the point of need. The point of need meaning wherever you are located, whether that is at the combat training centers, whether that is at home station, whether that's in an armory, or whether that's even if you're deployed. And then we even think that we can take that a step further, because we think we can also link in our institutional professional military education, our schoolhouses, who can be linked in as part of this training and be part of what has taken place either in a live environment, a virtual, or a constructive, or a gaming environment. We also envision the future Army training environment having the ability to solve or mitigate some of our interoperability issues or challenges that we currently have. And we envision being able to overcome this because we envision having a common architecture that allows our simulation environments to work, which will allow our joint interagency partners, along with special operations, along with our unified action partners, to be able to participate. In addition to that, we envision the future Army training environment having the ability for our mission command information systems to be able to operate, to stimulate those systems so we can train on the very systems that we are going to fight with on the next battlefield. We also anticipate the ability to be able to perform multi-echelon training all the way from battalion all the way up to the Army service component and being able to conduct mission command. So this future Army training environment, the way we're going to be able to do that is by delivering the synthetic training environment, which is what I want to talk to you about today. And we only have 2 slides, and we also have a video which is going to help you visualize exactly what we're talking with the future Army training environment. So with that, will you roll the video, please?
The U.S. Army must train to win in a complex world that demands adaptive leaders and organizations that can thrive in ambiguity and chaos. To meet this need, Force 2025 and beyond requires a new training environment that is flexible, supports repetition, reduces overhead, and available at the point of need. The answer is the Synthetic Training Environment, or STE, which will revolutionize training to build readiness. It will provide immersive and intuitive capabilities that keep pace with a changing operational environment and enable Army training on joint combined arms operations. The STE will move the Army away from the current cost-prohibitive facility-based training and instead allow the Army to train at the point of need, whether that is at home station, combat training centers, or at deployed locations at a lower cost. The STE's adaptive technology will support rapid iterations and provide immediate feedback, allowing leaders to accurately assess and adjust training, all in real time. With a single open architecture, it will also enable interoperability with joint, interorganizational, and multinational partners. Army operations are inherently multi-domain. U.S. forces depend on and complement joint efforts in the land, air, maritime, space, and cyberspace domains. The synthetic training environment will replicate the complex multi-domain fight to prepare soldiers to adapt and succeed in the future. An increasingly complex element of the land domain is the expansion of megacities. In the coming decades, an increasing majority of the world's population is expected to reside in these dense urban areas. The STE will enhance readiness in megacities by replicating the physical urban landscape, as well as the complex human dynamics of a large population. The STE will enable our formations to train as they fight, using their assigned mission command information systems. Operational information systems and the training environment systems will share an identical common operating picture, enabling seamless mission command across all echelons. The STE will deliver the next generation of synthetic collective trainers for armor, infantry, striker, and combat aviation brigades. These trainers will be low overhead and less costly than legacy collective simulators. This enables the Army to simultaneously train brigade task forces and below on tasks required to accomplish their warfighting functions. This multi-echelon collective training will be delivered to geographically distributed warfighters at the point of need for both current and future forces. The synthetic training environment will optimize human performance, enhance realistic training, and enable our Army to win in a complex world. The STE, revolutionizing Army training to build readiness.
So ladies and gentlemen, what you just saw here was a training environment where we will be able to train where we will fight, on the terrain that we will fight on, with the partners that we will fight with. So that's the vision of the synthetic training environment. And what I want to do right now is I want to introduce Colonel Jay Bullock. He is the TRADOC Capabilities Manager for the Integrated Training Environment, and he will be the lead sled dog for us as we move from the integrating training environment, which we have right now, to the synthetic training environment, which we see as the future Army training environment. He's going to give you a little bit of feel for some of the challenges he experienced as a young officer growing up without a synthetic training environment.
Thank you, ma'am, for providing me the opportunity today to speak on the synthetic training environment. My background is that I'm an armor officer. I've deployed 4 times to Iraq and Afghanistan, twice as a combat advisor, once as a Squadron S3, and then once as a BCTXO. And now I'm the capability manager for the integrated training environment, as well as working the synthetic training environment. So I really get to see what we currently use and then try to see how we can adapt those to the future of the synthetic training environment. We really have an opportunity to impact how the Army is going to train for the next 10, 20, 30, and 40 years. As an armor officer, as many of you in the room here experienced the simulations and simulators that we used for the air-land battle doctrine of the 80s and 90s and how those really evolved. And we evolved them into being able to be used for the counterinsurgency doctrine that we've just most recently been executing. And from that time until now, we've really been trying to get after what the synthetic training environment has to offer for us. As a young lieutenant in Vilseck, Germany, we used to go to the simulation center routinely in order to prepare for our annual CTC rotation down in Hohenfels. However, that simulation was limited in its capabilities and took quite a bit of oversight from both the unit and the contractors in order to be able to execute missions, one combined arms mission in the live and virtual domains. The basic scenario that we would run had our battalion TOC deployed to the field. We had an armor and a mechanized infantry company in the simulation center with a 3rd company out firing a live CALFEX with the mortars and scouts in support. Well, you can imagine the amount of work and coordination it took just to synchronize that effort, let alone to plan, prepare, and rehearse the actual mission in the simulation center. Well, that was 1995, and we've been trying to get after that ever since then. And every unit that I've been in, we've tried to execute something similar to that degree since that time. Now, what I've described is very similar to what we use these days, and our simulations have progressed. We've integrated the constructive environment, and we now have a program called the Live Virtual Constructive Integrating Architecture that helps to bond all those simulations together into one program that we can use to train on. However, the LVCIA doesn't address all of our issues, and we do still have quite a few problems. Interoperability between the domains, interoperability between our simulations. We have limited ability to conduct repetitions, and we still have the increased high overhead of setting these things up that we still deal with on a daily basis. The LVCIA does a good job, but still I think we can all admit that it doesn't really allow us to train like we would fight or where we would fight. If you can use the video that we showed and imagine being able to really immerse your entire unit in your future operational environment. not only while you're at your home station, but also deployed forward. The STE really has the power to revolutionize how the Army trains and maintains readiness. Now, as we all know, or most of us know, during the global war on terror, one of the biggest risks that a unit had was when it first moved into theater, and we called it the first 90 days. And we tried to mitigate these risks through sending leaders forward on a reconnaissance, conducting tough home station training, or our CTC rotations. But unfortunately, we could really only do so much. Now imagine the power of a program that allows your entire unit to immerse itself in its future operational environment before it even leaves its home station. As a combat advisor in a Squadron S3 and a BCTXO, I know that we could have used that program to immerse our units in their environment and fight against a similar enemy before we even deployed from Fort Carson. Imagine further, in coordination with the unit that's currently in theater, being able to take real-time missions that they had just executed, integrating that into the synthetic training environment with their after-action report, and being able to fight a similar battle before you even left the United States. And I'd ask for you to take one step further and apply that to what we currently do with our regionally aligned forces. Taking this program forward with the regionally aligned forces to the point of need, to where that unit is going to where they're going to conduct their exercise or their operation, is a powerful program indeed. We think that it will help to have them maintain readiness, but the other power to that program is their ability to connect back to their home station. So now they're out at the point of need, conducting exercises and training. They can use the synthetic training environment to link back in with their higher headquarters and continue to conduct missions and maintain readiness. Ma'am?
So if we can go ahead and put up the first slide, please. So, thank you, Colonel Bullock. Hey, so as Colonel Bullock kind of alluded to, you know, our challenge is how do we actually evolve and modernize our current integrated training environment, you know, that's going to combine and converge across all training domains, that's going to enable training of today's complexities and is able to adapt to the ever-changing threat, and not just the ever-changing threat, but also the ever-changing technology. Our current integrated training environment, which is provided through that integrating architecture that Colonel Bullock mentioned, it's an interim fix to address the combined and integrated training with our current array of fielded TADs until we actually realize the synthetic training environment. And you can kind of see depicted on this slide, those around that picture right there are all of those training devices that we have out there that we are trying to link together. Now, this technology was developed in the 1980s and 1990s. We developed the technology, and then we tried to piece it together. So all of these stovepipe technologies we're trying to bring together so that they will function and provide a collective level training, home station training capability. So, but it's working, this integrated architecture. It is working, but it doesn't come without the challenges, as Colonel Bullock alluded to. It's technically complicated solution, requiring its own contractor support team. It requires the integration of legacy systems speaking all kinds of different protocols. It operates on a closed, restricted network, limiting connection with our mission command information systems, and it requires its own integrating terrain solution from SE Core. Now, that's a challenge because I just want you to visualize this. We have 47 different terrain databases to support 12 of these legacy systems. So that is really not a good way of doing business. And so although the IA is a technical solution for integrating these stovepipe systems into an environment that was never originally designed to be interoperable, you got to ask yourself, can we do better, and do we need to do better? And if you look at the advances in technology, and you take a look at the changes in the way our current and future soldiers learn, which we just kind of heard the Chief of Staff of the Army just mention that in his Eisenhower speech here, I will submit that it demands that we change the way we're doing business and move towards the synthetic training environment. So if you go to the next slide kind of lays out the vision for the synthetic training environment, which is going to enable multi-echelon Army and joint training in an environment that's going to replicate the operational environment that our formations will fight in. For example, our current training environment consists of a large number of simulations that must operate together in a federated manner, kind of where we pulled it all together. In the future, we're going to converge these simulations into just 1 or 2 simulations. And then we're also going to ensure that it has the same protocols to operate on. This will eliminate the need for a separate integrating architecture and also will ensure that every soldier and leader have a common training experience. Additionally, the training with our joint and multinational partners is a must. So the synthetic training environment will work with our joint community standards to provide a common operating for land training. So that will allow you to kind of visualize everything that Colonel Bullock talked about, which was a challenge when he was kind of coming up as a young officer, and where we want to go in the future. So the environment that we must replicate must match what is occurring in the real world. The video briefly touched on the complexities of megacities, and we all know that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, we can probably get the physical structure to replicate a megacity, but how do you replicate the density of the population that you will encounter? And so we believe that through the virtual reality, we can actually get to that environment, because we have to portray the actors and the terrain in every domain where the Army is expected to operate, whether that's cyber, space, or on the land. And we have to train our leaders to think outside of these parameters that they are accustomed to, because our enemy is already thinking like that, and if you think about it, they are already operating in these spaces. So for decades, we have consolidated training at our mission training complexes and our other brick and mortar facilities because it allowed us to focus our training and support. The problem with this approach is that this limits training throughput and also facility availability. Commanders may not be able to train when they need to, where they need to, and with who they need to train with. So in the future, we see a cloud-based technologies and also improvement in the Army networks will enable us to move out of these facilities and bring the training to the warfighter wherever they are located. Now, another idea that we're looking at is how do we conduct mounted and dismounted operations. Historically, we have focused on the vehicle platform, whether that's a track, a wheeled, or even a rotary wing platform. These simulations were effective, but they're expensive, and over time the costs have continued to rise, which forced us to make trade space decisions that reduce the overall training value of our vehicle simulators. Now our future collective trainers are going to emphasize joint combined arms maneuver training and focus on the collective tasks that a unit must accomplish to win. We're going to make hard decisions on the level of fidelity for the air and ground platform simulators that will improve our ability to match training equipment with the fielded equipment. We've also been discussing, what we've been discussing may seem like it's way out in the future to you, but I'm going to submit that through what we've gained through our knowledge of the integrating training environment and also what I'm seeing here laid out as part of AUSA and advances in technology, I will tell you that I think it's much closer to reality than we think. Now, as I'm going to wrap this up quickly so we can get to your questions, I just want to explain and say up front that in no way, shape, or form are we advocating that the synthetic training environment will ever replace live training. That will not be the case. The way we envision the synthetic training environment is that it enables, it enriches, and it enhances the live training environment. It will allow you to get those repetitions. It will allow you to go through those scenarios to make decisions so that when you go into a live training environment, you are at a much higher level. We've taken a look at all the challenges that we're facing today, challenges such as the lack of concurrency with our platforms, the inability to conduct full multi-echelon training, a changing operational environment that we cannot accurately replicate, and also a decreasing budget, which means we cannot fully meet the needs of the warfighter. So we see that Steve will revolutionize training by converging our simulations, ensuring that joint and multinational training across multi-echelons, allowing the warfighter to train as they fight at a time and place of their choosing. Now, I would like to end this with I just finished doing a book review, and the book was titled Task and Purpose by Major General Retired Scales. And he called for realistic, immersive simulations for infantry, similar to what exists for pilots today. He wants soldiers to have the same training opportunity. He wants the same type of intensive and realistic training that pilots receive at a Top Gun or Red Flag to be the norm for infantry units and our leaders. This includes using realistic simulations to weed out those who make bad decisions in simulations before they make them in combat. And see, that is the power of the synthetic training environment, because we will be able to conduct multi-echelon training, specific training objectives at all levels, and we will be able to have repetitions to bring our training readiness to a higher level. And yesterday we talked about Objective T and how we're going to measure readiness, and we see the synthetic training environment being one of the key enablers to Objective T in ensuring readiness for our Army. And so, ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'm going to stop talking, and I look forward to your questions. Sir. It's Mike.
Thank you, John.